question we have to ask ourselves is this: what makes our family different than the one next door, or the one down the street, or the one that sits in the next pew over at church on Sunday? What makes our family different? If we don't know what makes us different, then we're going to live generic lives trying to be all things to all people. And of course, then we become nothing to no one. But what does it mean to know what makes us different? Well, the first thing we have to know is, what are our family's core values? Now, this sounds so obvious. People always say family values. Everybody thinks family values are important. But then you ask people, so what are your family values? And they're like, I don't know, they're family values. You know, family, it's important. But what makes your family values different than another? And we don't know. So I sat down and I said, I help my companies that I work with come up with core values. And you know, some of them do it wrong, where they have a list of like 12 things on the wall that say, you know, we believe in integrity and innovation and quality and teamwork and work-life balance and love and honesty. And you know, it's like every quality under the sun. You've seen this, and it's like, yeah, the last company I worked at said that, the next one will too. When I talk about core values in your family, I'm talking about those 2 or 3 things that make you who you are. And that is not going to be true about the family next door, as wonderful as those people are. How do you come up with those values? The way we did it in my family is I sat down and I said, what is it that I admired about my wife when I met her that made me think this is the person for me? And that later on I would learn that she admired about me too. What did we have in common? Because if it's something about her that I don't have, it's not a core value, it's something I wish I had. And I remember in college when I met my wife, she was different than the other women I'd met, because she would stand up even when it wasn't popular and say, I don't think this is right, or I think this is what we should do. And I remember she would stand up for what was right no matter what the cost. And I said, that is cool. Well, as it turned out, she thought I did the same thing, and that's what we kind of liked about each other. And when we talked about this a few years ago when I started thinking about this book, we realized that was one of our core values. Stand up for what's right no matter what the cost. We want to live that way. We want to pass that on to our children. And we want to make that a purposeful, intentional part of our lives. Another one was that we were both creative. My wife became an actress later in life, did some amateur acting, and I'm a writer, and we write. She's writing a musical right now. We invented a board game. We didn't come from creative families. They didn't really encourage that. It was like, get a job, make money, that's your life. And we have this desire to be creative, and we said, that's something we share. That's one of our core values. Another one was be passionate for whatever you do. Those were what made us unique and what we were attracted to each other by in the first place. So those were our core values. Now, what does that have any relevance? Well, here's relevance. Cub Scouts. I'm not a very organized guy. I try to be responsible and loyal, but the truth is, Cub Scouts were never my thing. Tying knots, following the rules, getting the little badges, it was never good for me. My wife either. We're creative. So when my sons came home and said, we don't really like Cub Scouts, Mom and Dad, it was one of those rare moments where like, what should we do? We said, you don't have to go to Cub Scouts anymore. But then one of them came home and said, I do want to play the guitar. And we said, we're going to help him. We're going to nurture that one. Why? Because that's what our families like. And otherwise, we were going to get riddled with guilt. You know the guilt you feel when somebody says, hey, do you want your kids to be on the travel soccer team? And we go, I don't know, who else is on the travel soccer team? Is this going to affect their life? Will they not get into college? Will there ever be another chance? Oh my gosh, we should do it or we shouldn't do it. How do we know how to make the decision? I don't know about you, but this is the greatest stressor in my life, trying to sort through all the possible opportunities for my family in a world with very little time and scarce resources. So if you have core values, that provides some context for making decisions. But the other context you need for understanding how your family differs is your strategy.